simply going to put forward our best foreign signings who have come into the league, who have had an impact, not only on the pitch, which obviously is extremely important, but off the pitch as well, because this league is a new league, it's a growing league, and also you want to engage new fans. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. Things are going good. It's warm here in Chicago, so I'm enjoying this. I don't know that it's quite as warm here as it is in New York. What about that, big guy?
Yeah, it's quite warm and humid here. As many of you guys know, I do live in the woods, so it doesn't help. But other than that, doing great.
Good. We're going to start with the big guy. We're going to start with Scott, and your choice is a Brit. So I know him pretty well. It is, of course, Ben Foden. I'll read a couple of his stats out, some really good things that he's done in the game. Obviously, he's played for the Lions, played for England. He's won at the Gallagher Premiership with Northampton. He's also had the most stats in many areas for Rooney over the past season. He had the most meters gained, most line breaks, most tackle breaks, most offloads, and the most play time of any player at Rugby United New York. Surely he's got to be up there with one of the best foreign signings. Scott, can you explain why you've gone for him?
Yeah, I mean, right there it tells you he has bought into what Rooney is doing. Not only most minutes played, he's tied with Mike Petrie for most cap player for Rooney over the past 2 seasons. And I think what he realized was, as his time was winding down here, he has something to contribute to these young players. He doesn't go out there looking to win. I mean, well, everybody goes out there looking to win, but he's not going out there saying, I'm going to come to the United States, I'm going to make it big on this big contract and do this huge thing. He realizes that this league is growing. He realizes that there's these American players and these foreign-born players that might not be able to make it, let's say, in a championship league in the UK, but are, have come up in America, and he kind of wants to teach them how to be professional. I see it more as a mentorship role. He takes guys under his wing, specifically Connor Wallace-Sims. He has a very close relationship with Connor, and you can just tell that coming into a new team in the first year, he set the expectation of what professionalism is, and everybody else fell in line with that.
I think that's really important. The fact that, he's come from an elite level of rugby, and many of these guys would have played college rugby, or probably most of them actually would very likely have been their first professional experience of rugby. And for him to come in, set that standard, say, okay, this is how we train, this is how we eat, this is how we recover, this is how we approach match day. And also, what you have to think about him as well is the fact that he is a big name in rugby. People know who he is. And obviously being on the X Factor probably helped him a little bit as well, which, although we can smile and laugh about it, it is a big thing. It could easily drag rugby fans or people who aren't rugby fans over to Major League Rugby to have a watch of that and say, okay, he looks nice with the top off maybe for some ladies, but on the pitch, what can he do? And that can definitely draw some people in. Rob, what are your thoughts on Foden? Jealous as a Nola fan?
Am I jealous? No, I just feel bad for the guy because in Vegas, a ball muffed on the AstroTurf hit the post a couple times and then turned into a try for New England. So
listen, for your viewers who want to view it, you will not see a play like that happen ever again.
No,
it's one of those where it hits the turf. Not only does it bounce off the turf 3 times, it hits 2 posts on the goal post and then drops right into the opposing player's hands who dots down a try. Yeah. And honestly, I think in that sense, Foden was trying to be a little too crafty with his veteran knowledge, and he thought he was going to let it go through and then gain that meters back. And obviously it threw egg on his face, but what are you going to do?
And it harkened back to a particular game I remember from days of yore where a ball was kicked high, hit the forehead of Mickey, a guy I used to go to college with, and bounced right into my hands, and I scored a rather excellent try on that day, and perhaps that's why I can remember Foden's horrible experience in Vegas. So, but no, I like Ben a lot. I think he's he cuts like a hot knife through butter in the line. His ability to attack with vision, with space from the 15 position is excellent. I'd take a guy like him any day of the week. Of course, we have a pretty good guy back there in NOLA, JP Eloff. He's pretty solid too. And he's an exciting and thrilling player to watch. But Ben is a great player. As Bastro the game. What I like most about Ben off the pitch is that he's really done a lot to promote Rooney in the off season. I believe he's still in the area.
Correct. He lives in New York. And the other thing is, you would think a guy with his reputation and, when he came into the league, he had some personal issues. You would think he would be standoffish. And to be quite honest, you come up to him during a warm-up. If people don't know, they play at a baseball arena. So he would come up to around the batting circle area, the on-deck area, as the Americans call it, just to do some warm-ups. And it was actually right by where my seats are. And you could just go up to him and talk to him. And he was nice and he was cordial. And at the socials, he'll have a drink with you. So he's not just a rugby player. He kind of, just like everybody in the Prem, he exemplifies what it means to be with the fans, deal with the fans, always in a nice way.
For sure. And I think the big thing that stood out to me about him is, as you said, he's so available to do things. I've watched many videos of him like chatting on different shows with different people about his experiences. And I think he gets what this league is all about and the culture that you guys, especially at the MLR Rant, which we'll certainly get to later, are trying to build that culture of everyone's welcome. Come get involved in the game that we love. And the fact that Major League Rugby seems to be a sustainable plan now in place is something that he can definitely build into. Maybe he wants to live in America long term, so it makes sense for him to come over here and to play. And as you said, he's a quality player. He breaks through tackles beautifully. He just had that game awareness, knowing what to do when, and taking, as you said, young players under their wing has been absolutely brilliant. We'll move on to Rob now. Rob's choice, shock horror, is from Nola Gold. What a surprise. But Rob, would you like to pitch your player for us?
Yeah, so I actually, I'm going to, hopefully I won't get red carded, but Ty's not here, so I don't have to worry about that.
Do what you want. Do what you want.
If I'm thinking over the 2 and a third seasons, the guy that I really like is Reichert Hadding for Seattle. He's a guy over the sustained period that I've been really impressed with. 26 appearances for the Seawolves in 2 and a third seasons, 60 points in 3 seasons. This particular season, even though it was short and he had 5 tries, which was the most in the league, 5 try assists. He's helped the team, the Seawolves, to 2 MLR titles. And what I like most about Reichert is that he's living in America. He's married to an American. He has now become eligible to play for the U.S. Eagles. And so for me, when you talk about somebody who's really made a huge contribution, like Ben, staying here in the United States in the offseason and doing things to promote the league, Reichert has certainly done that and more by being a mainstay in American rugby culture. And I don't think enough can be said about that. Based upon last season, the guy I really like, and at the risk of seeming like a homer, is Carl Meyer, and it's a little different choice. And the reason why is he just came to NOLA in 2020, but I think the contribution has to be taken in some context. And the context is this. We had a guy that was absolutely electric in 2019 in Tristan Blewett. He was second in the most tries. I think he scored 12, just one behind Ryberg. And he was amazing. Again, one of those phenomenal X-Factor players. He wasn't able to come back. He continue to school. I think he's in the UK, actually continuing his education. And we really thought we were going to have a Batman and Robin situation with Carl Meyer, 6'4", 235, just an absolute beast of a specimen. And then this crafty, shifty, smaller player. Well, that didn't happen when Blewett did not come back to the United States for a second season. And Carl Meyer really stepped into a role. He filled the role by JP Eloff. JP was out for 4 weeks with a head injury, and so he stepped into the fullback role, and he stepped into the kicking role. What really stood out for me as far as Meyer goes, he scored 2 tries. He had 45 points. He went 13 of 18 on conversions and was 4 for 4 in penalties. So he really stepped into a critical place when we had 2 critical players missing from NOLA, and it really helped him. The gold, that is, that he was there to pick up the energy that was left by 2 players that were certainly exciting in 2019.
For sure. And I've heard obviously more about Ben Foden, but it sounds like he's been a massive part of your team. And that's going to be so important that these standout players not become celebrities as such, because you want them to keep the relationship with the fans, but you want people to know, okay, this is this person they play rugby for this team and they're a star. They're really, really good for their team, so that people become aware of them. So when they walk down the street, it's not just any old Joe walking down the street. This person plays for Nola Gold, or he plays for Rooney, or he plays for Seattle, or whoever it is. There are two big players I do want to talk about. First one is Matteo Bastro. Now, this guy divides opinion. Scott, you'll know a lot about him. Obviously, he played at Rooney. I've seen a lot of him here in Europe, playing in the Six Nations, playing in the Champions Cup. Very, very successful player. You know, he's won loads of caps for France, captain the national side. He's won the Champions Cup. He's won the top 14. When he went to Rooney, I felt it was a little bit of a surprise. It was a loan deal, I believe, if I'm correct in saying that. Scott, what was the anticipation for him, and what was the impact he really had?
I'm going to step in for just a moment. I apologize, but I think it's important to take this particular individual into context. Is he's the one that started the rant. The MLR rant.
He did. The discussions about Matteo Bastro between me, Rob, and our other host Ty Braga is what created the show, essentially, because it was the first thing we all debated about. But anyway, the assumption is he's going to come in, he's going to play in the back line. And to be honest, he did fit back there. Did he come in overweight? Yeah. Here's the thing. He came in overweight and was still like the third fastest player on the team. So what's that tell you? You could be overweight, but a guy over in the States here, we call that guy he's built like a brick shithouse. He was so fast and quick, and his rugby knowledge is like Ben Foden because he has that knowledge of just knowing that the first guy's not going to take me down. And every time he got hit, he turned around and looked for an offload. And when it wasn't there, guess what? He just went to ground. Is something that a lot of younger players don't understand, and they try and make that dumb offload pass, and then guess what? It gets knocked on because he was giving it to a prop, or he was giving it to a flanker who wasn't ready for it. Stupid stuff like that is what made him play well. Now, because of injury, he ended up coming to the front to the pack, playing at a number 8 spot, and that again for Rooney helped him a lot. Rooney had a young scrum half in Marcus Walsh. Because their senior scrum half, Mike Petrie, had a head injury. Marcus came in, and you could see that at some points he had some hesitation. And if it looked like there was some hesitation, what did Bastro do? He just picked it and went, because he knew if he resets it on the next phase, Marcus can figure out what he needs to do there if there was a decision. So I feel, with my rugby knowledge, even though there was only 5 games, and let's be honest, the first game Rooney played against the Free Jacks, nobody had a good game except Kyle Sumption. He played 4 solid games for Rooney, and then the season got cut short. And it proved to the people in France he's still good to play some rugby, and it got him another 2-year contract in France. So I think there was this expectation that he was going to be this big. I know the next guy you're going to talk to, Mananu, was going to be that type of player, and he wasn't. But that didn't mean he wasn't a great player for Rooney, and that was the debate that I had with a lot of people who crapped on him. And again, another guy. And I not only from Rooney fans, this was from San Diego fans, this was from Austin fans. Anybody who went up to him and said hello and asked for a picture, he took the picture. He was nice. He said thank you to everybody. And I got messages from multiple people that anybody who asked, he would stop and take a picture. So he's another guy like a Chris Robshaw, who is known to be the gentleman of the game. He's another guy that does that along with Ben Foden. I think that stuff is overlooked because he wasn't quote unquote skinny.
Yeah. And I think, there was this conception that he was massively overweight, that he just wasn't good enough for the game anymore. And obviously he's gone to Rooney, got that 2-year contract added on. I don't think he'll get back into the France setup. I think that those days are probably behind him. But I think he has shown that he is still capable of playing. And the fact that he can go into number 8. And I think what we all agree on is that when these foreign signings do come in, you see the quality of player. You see that, you see that they know what pass to play. You see the ability that they have. Rob, what are your thoughts on Matteo Bastro?
Well, again, going back to our conversation that triggered the MLR rant and started the whole process, it was really about Bastro and what did he live up to expectations? And I asserted at the time that he didn't. But again, Scott goes to the games. He analyzes New York games. I don't watch those games with quite the same critical eye that I watch some of the Gold games. So I think it was interesting as Scott talked about his ability to fill in at number 8. That shows and demonstrates a lot of versatility for a player with a tremendous amount of experience, that he's able to put himself in that situation. He scored a number of tries from the back of some rolling mauls. So again, I think that demonstrates his ability to fill some shoes when called upon, especially when you have some inexperienced players that don't have the caliber of experience that he has.
And to interrupt Rob real quick, what I forgot to mention is the little things he did, like counter-rucking. Rooney had the highest percentage of jackling a ball. Like 9 times out of 10, it was 2 guys, either Nate Brakeley or Matteo Bastro. So my point is, the perception was he's just coming here and he's not going to do anything. If he didn't want to play rugby, he wouldn't go and counter-ruck. Like, you can do things on the pitch to not actually put forth an effort. He did he was making tackles like crazy. I think Nate Brakeley led the team in tackles in over 5 games. I think he had 73 tackles, and Matteo Bastro was like right behind him with like 59 tackles. I mean, the dude made 59. He was making almost over 10 tackles a game. So if the perception was that he really wasn't going to come here and do anything, then, I think I proved you wrong with just that stat alone.
Exactly, and I love the fact that he's a gentleman of the game as well. That comes over in all the interviews that he does. Let's move on to another powerhouse of rugby. Who, if he was running at me, I'd shit myself.
Me too.
It is Nonu, 2-time World Cup winner. He's won loads of stuff, of course. Rugby Championships, won that 5 times. Won the Bledisloe Cup 8 times, 103 caps for the All Blacks. Once again, I'm going to go to Rob this time, though. What was the anticipation for him coming to MLR, and how do you think he's done so far?
Well, I think the anticipation was massive, especially in the rugby community, who knows his pedigree and knows his experience and knows what he brings to the table. And I think, quite frankly, that he met that. I believe he scored 3 tries during the course of 5 games, but where I think he was particularly appreciated by San Diego Legion fans is his ability to settle that back line and provide some significant offloading opportunities for others to capitalize off of and score important and critical tries. So for me, I really looked at him and saw what he did in a support role, more so than him going in there and breaking tackles and finding, that critical space that perhaps he could have done in 2015 or 2011. He's not quite that fast anymore, but he demonstrated his rugby experience, his rugby skills, and a lot of other ways to provide support to other players. And one of the players that benefited from his experience was Duplessis. JP Duplessis was really a beneficiary of a lot of that in so many ways. So I don't think enough can be said about what he did for San Diego, but they were deep to begin with. When he I think the 5th game he didn't play, and they still
correct. He was injured. Yeah.
He was injured. So he was, they were a force to be reckoned with.
For sure, they are. I watched so many games, tried to watch as many as I could at the start of the season, and you could just see the quality shining through. Just the passes he was doing, the lines I used to taking, the tackles he was putting in, and just that understanding of the game, what to do at all points.
There were and you talk about passes. There were a number of times where he really hit a couple miss 1, miss 2 passes that went out wide and created significant line breaks or created significant breaks that led to tries. So, that crafty passing and vision was a critical piece of his play.
Scott, where would you rank Nonu so far?
I think, again, he definitely met my expectations. I think Rob nailed it on the hit the nail on the head. I didn't think he was going to come out and be like this completely prolific rugby player that we've seen, something like that. He is a bit older, but again, these older veteran guys, what they're doing, they're using their veteran tactics. He's not as cheeky as a Bastro or a Foden, but like Rob said, he's a guy who played smart, who knew that if 2 guys are going to come and make a tackle on him, he's better with a short offload to whoever's next to him. Or if it was a one-on-one, he can do that skip pass. The other thing is his defense. I mean, his line defense was great. He tackled guys. He put them down. He didn't make those big hits he was known for, but that doesn't matter. If you're completing the tackle and they're not really gaining any meters, who cares? You're doing everything right to win the game. And like Rob said, they went 5-0 for a reason. He was a big part of that. And I think even though the stats don't tell it, he did score 3 tries. I think he only had 2 or 3 try assists, but he was the guy who set up the pass that set up the try assist, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think if you go back to a lot of those tries they scored and go back to that third pass they made before the try assist, he was involved. So I think in my eyes, he definitely met expectations.
Absolutely. And I think obviously a player of that quality is going to shine in the new league and he's going to raise the profile of the league. There's one more signing I'd like to talk about. He hasn't taken the field yet, but he will be soon. He announced that he's leaving Harlequins at the end of this season and heading over to the States. It's Chris Robshaw, former England captain, played for the Lions, played for Harlequins, won the title with Harlequins. What do you think he'll bring to Major League Rugby? We'll start with Scott.
Well, just so you know, there should be a line in his Wikipedia page that he met me at the Pig and Whistle in February. Just, you know, it's a big event when you meet the big guy. I don't know if people in the UK realize how big of a personality I am here in the rugby world in America. But he's going to a stacked San Diego team. And for the team itself, it's a great signing. Obviously, veteran player. The San Diego pack has not been the best. He's going to add to that. Again, another guy in his later years, but he's a little bit more cheeky in the pack there. I think it's going to bring the profile of the league up more than anything. Again, he's one of those guys, gentleman of the game, wasn't going to play for another Premiership team. I think it was either he leaves the Harlequins and goes to MLR or maybe even France. But he's one of those guys that he has that loyalty to a team, and it shows. But I think, again, it brings up that profile to the MLR, and it says to guys, hey, if Chris Robshaw, if Ben Foden, if Bastro, if Ma'ananu can come, you have to realize guys like Drew Mitchell, who didn't get to come over for visa issues. Cara Pryor was supposed to be for play for Rudy. Evan Minturn, Irish national, was supposed to come over. Those 3 guys didn't come over because of visa issues. But I think Robshaw showing that if you can get over here and get around that, it will boost your profile, and it obviously gives him a better profile to do, promotion, sponsorship, that type of thing outside of rugby. And to be honest, he seems like one of those guys that he wants to coach. So being a player, and in the MLR, there's a unique thing. You could actually be a player coach contract, which is something Drew Mitchell is on. So he might not play all the games, but he can dress as a coach and be on the field. I have a feeling Robshaw is on a 2-year deal. 2021 is going to be year 1. I could see him in 2022 doing that second year as a player coach, and then maybe, going either back somewhere else or staying in the MLR and becoming a coach full time. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and I think that would be a very sensible option for him. And as you said, he just seems like a good guy, and he seems like he'll buy into the ethos of MLR, what you guys are trying to create. Rob, what do you think his impact will be on the pitch? Do you think he's still got it?
Well, first, let me just say that I'm surprised by Scott's excitement for the man. Quite frankly, because are we
going to get into this again?
We are.
So do I have to explain how Rooney decided they didn't want him anymore?
Yeah.
So he went to San Diego?
Yeah, the rumor was that Robshaw was going to be going to Rooney, and of course that's how Scott, the big guy, happened to come in contact with him, and why there's going to be a new byline in Wikipedia for Robshaw's.
Listen, I'm going to say it right here. Give me Nate Brakely and Hanko Hermesice on the flank for Rooney. You could take Robshaw. That's all I'm going to say.